Hello, everybody. Matt Lavelle here, and sincere gratitude to Gail Boyd at Alternative Venues for Jazz for asking me to talk about my story in the big wide world of jazz. I really do appreciate it. I'm broadcasting here from Philadelphia, Philadelphia, PA, Mount Airy to be precise. Uh, these are my paintings behind me, and I'll just get right into my story. I consider myself somewhat of an anomaly in jazz. Uh, I've walked a path that, of course, no one can walk the same path as everybody else, but the kind of path that I've walked is one that is harder and harder to walk and maybe impossible now in 2024. Uh, and what I mean by that is I've had uh, genuine on the bandstand mentorship going all the way back to the swing era. How's that possible? I'm 54. Well, in my early 20s, I met the great Sir Hildred Humphreys. Hildred Humphreys is not super famous. You might have to be a jazz historian to know about Hildred. He was a great sax man and a singer, alto back in the swing era, and he played tenor mostly when I was hanging out with him. He had a brother named Frank. They were the Humphreys brothers. They were from Pittsburgh. There's a great drummer in Pittsburgh, Roger Humphreys, is a relative, and I haven't met Roger yet. But Hildred and I were uh, a really unusual uh, friendship that we had, and we would just hang out and spend a lot of time together and play as much as we could. Uh, Now he had about 50 or 60 years on me, but we were bonded by love of the music, and he would tell me stories. Uh, Hildred went on the road with none other than Billie Holiday for 6 months, Lady Day. And what he always told me is that people told him to watch out for Lady Day. She's going to be a problem. You're going to have trouble doing that. And he said that nothing could be further from the truth. He said you had a beautiful experience, and she was a beautiful person. And hey, right there with the one and only Billie Holiday. He was also with Count Basie for a while. Uh, as at a certain point, he got tired of the road, told Basie he wanted to leave. Uh, Basie bought Hildred a gold-plated tenor to try to get him to stay. So now you have to go into jazz history to track down the actual locations and stuff in the years, but uh, it went down. Hildred used to practice with Roy Eldridge when they were kids in Pittsburgh, and the thing about Hildred that I really took was he supported me and saw that the way that I played might be a little different. I've been typecast as kind of like an avant-garde player in a way, but Hildred supported me, and he supported me being me. And there were moments on the bandstand when I would take incredible chances, the kind of chances that you could get kicked out of the venue for. And Hildred was right there. He had my back on that, and I sure do miss him. And he used to tell me that he used to argue with his friends about Coltrane, and his personal take was that Train was the greatest of them all, is what he used to tell his buddies from the back from the swing era when they would try to debate about Train. You know, so Hildred was my first mentor, and I made my way to New York City to uh, try my hand at straight ahead jazz playing in the jazz capital of the world. Hildred and I were both living in Nyack at the time, which is about 40 minutes above the city. My straight ahead experience was not that positive. Uh, I had a lot of people try to tell me to just stop playing. In particularly, the great drummer Jimmy Lovelace sat me down at Smalls. This is the early days of Smalls. This is early '90s Smalls, and he was in the white tuxedo and all that. And he sat me down and told me to quit music because I clearly did not have it, and he was telling me this to help me. Uh, but I didn't quit. In fact, I came back the next night, and things got even more tense between us. But I kept going back to Smalls. I was going to the jam session all the time, and I had positive experiences as well. In particular, with the great Roy Hargrove, rest in peace. Uh, I had crossed paths with Roy during that time. Roy Hargrove and I might be the same age. May he rest in peace. Uh, our first meeting was not the best, and it was all my fault because I cut the line at Yardbird Suite. Yardbird Suite was a place right near the Village Voice, and he was holding a jam session there. And I got there, and there was a list of people to play. I cut the line. I went right on the stage and called confirmation, and then Roy proceeded to destroy me on confirmation. But he did it with love, and he didn't do it in a mean way. And I used to see him at Smalls after that and a few other places, and he was very supportive. I took a crazy out whole tone improvisation thing on rhythm changes once, and he loved it. He really thought it was great that I went somewhere else and pulled it off. That being said, I really couldn't get much traction going in the straight ahead world, and I got kind of disillusioned about certain things, and I split for a couple years, and I went upstate by Woodstock, up in the Kingston, New York area, and I got a bass clarinet, which is unusual to play trumpet and bass clarinet. But I didn't have much going on, and I was gonna try to do something different, do something new. I always liked bass clarinet, and who plays bass clarinet and trumpet? Nobody. Anyway, I went back to New York with the help of a great drummer, Ryan Sawyer, helped me get back to New York. And once I got back there, he connected me to the downtown scene in New York, which I didn't even know existed. I actually did not know it even existed when I was playing on the straight ahead side. But now I met William Parker and Sabir Mateen and Roy Campbell, and the downtown Vision Festival thing was popping at that time. This is about 2000, 1999, 2000. And I really got immersed in that scene. So much that I was at one time in 4 of Sabir Mateen's bands. So I really did some time as a sideman. I was in 4 of now Sabir is a great composer, multi-instrumentalist, true tenor master, and a good friend of mine. And he took me under his wing. Roy Campbell was a great trumpet player. May he rest in peace. I joined William Parker's Little Huey Music Orchestra, which is a story unto itself. And this really was a dream come true. I had come to see William as like the Duke Ellington of today, and dreamed, what if I could be in that band? And actually ended up in it. And Sabir and I joined on the same day. There's a record called Spontaneous, which is the Little Huey orchestra live at the Knitting Factory at the Vision Festival, and that was Sabir and I's first gig with the band. So my playing with older musicians, I spent quite a number of years doing this. I eventually became a sideman for the great guitarist Bern Nix. And boy, do I miss Byrne. May he rest in peace. Now, you know, Byrne was the guy to take harmonics to guitar from the straight ahead world and create his own universe. And at some point in my story, I had crossed paths with, and thanks to a photographer, John Rogers, I met the great Ornette Coleman himself. And I was studying with Ornette uh, during this period, and it was my experiences with Ornette that helped me get the gig with Byrne. Uh, Harmonics is a whole thing unto itself, and I had become fully immersed in that perspective, if you will, which really worked for me. Because Byrne in particular really worked for me because he liked to swing. He just didn't like the constraints of progressions. You know, harmony and chords are cool, but ditch the progressions and let's get down. You know, of course, there's a lot more to it than that. I did a whole thesis on Ornette and harmonics on that's available online through Rutgers University. That's up to 7,000 downloads, something like that. I'm not sure. But also during this time, I formed a lot of close musical relationships, and I encountered a somewhat lost legend, the great Giuseppe Logan. Is another underground name. You know, maybe Giuseppe was the underground of the underground, but he was a straight up stone cold hard rock from the height of the 60s. And when I met Giuseppe, he had come back to New York and he was trying to, as he said, go out playing. And we got tight, and Giuseppe and I played all over the place. And we hung out a lot. And I really tried to help him do that. And he did it. He kept playing. You know, life took over, and eventually his attempted comeback reached a conclusion. But he was able to go out, as he said. And so Giuseppe stands tall in my own story. My story is a lot of other stories too. You know, I I think a lot about story in jazz in particular. You know, the whole thing about you're supposed to tell a story when you play. I think that goes back to Lester Young, and I think that's true. And I think I have a story. Not many people have heard it, and but part of my story is I've been part of other stories. I mean that's true for a lot of people, but you know the story of Ornette Coleman and the story of Giuseppe Logan and the story of Byrne Nix, those are absolute true jazz stories, jazz to the core. You really can't get more jazz than Byrne Nix, let me tell you. When it comes to what jazz whatever it is that we think jazz is, Byrne Nix is. Yeah, he's free jazz, but his actual personality and who he was, his life and how he lived, this is jazz. Okay. Anyway, uh, past my mentorship, I was in New York for about 30 years, and throughout that time, I started trying to do my own thing and lead my own projects. Uh, I've recorded a number of times. Uh, Probably the first uh, big label thing that I did was I did a trio called Spiritual Power on the Silkheart label. This was back when CDs were still the deal, and the internet hadn't totally taken over. And that trio and my music did start to catch on in Europe a little bit. I had a following in Sweden, and I was able to do a tour there. And I was on the radio and in the newspapers and stuff. I've never been able to figure out what really happened, but somehow people in Sweden really got into me. And then I went and did that, and then I came back to New York, and then that was kind of it, you know, which has always been kind of hard for me to explain. Uh, but I did tour Europe a lot with Severe, and also memory serves, I went to Italy twice with William Parker's Little Huey Music Orchestra, which was really cool. But I always was trying to do my own thing also, and I've released a number of records, some self-released, some on labels like Unseen Rain, and I did a record for ESP, the great label ESP, the same record label that Giuseppe recorded for back in the day. I did a record called Retrograde, and somewhere in that New York period, after talking to Ornette, I started a big band, not a traditional big band. I called it the 12 Houses. And in discussions with Ornette, what we were talking about was the imbalance between male and female energy in not just jazz and music, but the world. And Ornette posed the question. He said, what if we could solve that? What if there was a band where the music was equally of the male and female dynamic? So now I'm veering into some of Ornette's philosophy and stuff like that. But the idea was, and Ornette loved ideas, was to have a band of half women and half men. I mean, that's a stone cold logical way to try to do it. And I tried to do it. And the 12 Houses was born and has been playing ever since. And it's a really special group of people. A lot of people don't know about the 12 Houses for whatever reason. The press or the media has just never gotten hip to the 12 Houses. I mean, we played in New York over 150 times. We played every Sunday at New Blue for a year in 2017. And we had 2 records out on Unseen Rain around the same time, 2016, I think. And the 12 Houses is just, we always got together based on love of the music, because it wasn't like we were making any money or anything like that. It was about the music, and through that, I was able to build a book and hear music that I was writing all the time, which is, I mean, that's the ultimate in music, really. I mean, that's one of the reasons Duke Ellington said he kept the orchestra going, was because he had to hear what he wrote all the time. It was his prime directive, was to hear his own music. So that being said, eventually New York became too much for me on the financial side, on the life side. And I made my way out here to Philadelphia, which is a whole other universe. Philadelphia is got its own music scene and some extremely strong jazz and free jazz musicians out here in Philly. And, I knew some people before I came in, and I've met some other great musicians like Terry Lawson and Kevin Obatala, Elliot Levin, Pete Dennis, Dave Hotep. I mean, I've just loved the musicians in Philly, and I try to play out here as much as I do in New York. And the cool thing about Philly is you can get to New York in an hour and 40 minutes. So I've been on a train longer than that. It takes, get on the A train out to Far Rock to visit Giuseppe might take that long. So, but uh, getting back to current events, uh, semi-current. During the pandemic, I had the opportunity to write music for the 12 houses that I had been working on for a long time, and I called it the Crop Circle Suite Part One. And here it is. Boom. Matt Lavelle and the 12 Houses. This is on Mahakala Music, which is on Bandcamp, and it's a great label, a forward-thinking label that, as they say, and I believe is true, they pursue aggressively beautiful music. This is the music on here is very, very special for me, and it's music unlike any that's out there right now. I mean, there's a large ensemble that has a sax quartet, a brass quartet, a classical ensemble, plus rhythm. It's all individuals, and it's one of the best group of listeners that I can think of, and it's all about supporting each other. It's you know, uh, it's some different thing, you know. And in the music on this record, uh, I'm making my case for what I believe is the deeper reality of jazz, which is that the idea of in versus out is something that was created by the critics in the 60s and is way too much of a thing. And like my friend, like a great friend of mine, a great tenor player, the Reverend Frank, I can't remember his name. Dang, just drawing a blank. But like he used to say, no one ever said on that couldn't swing, right? And the, the 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 things that are at the core of what jazz is telling a story, you know, melody, dynamics, expression, soul, you know, those things become even more important when you play free jazz. This is the thing that people just don't get. And you know, there's a great alto player that I'm sure many people know named Bruce Williams. And like Bruce said, there's no reason we can't vibe. There's no reason the in and out can't vibe. You know, we can call it blues. You can call it blues. If you call it blues, anybody from uh, from the earliest days of jazz to far off into the future should be able to get down in some way on blues. Anyway, in this record, I make my case, and that we're all really coming from the same thing. Sometimes I call jazz the biggest dysfunctional family of all time. Is one way I look, you know, one way I put it. Uh, but I really believe in the music on this record, and I hope anybody out there can check it out. And as the clock's winding down, I'll mention what I have coming up. I have 3 gigs in a row in New York, uh, and it's really pretty extraordinary. On the June 21st, as crazy as it might sound, I am going to conduct a tent with 112 musicians in Astoria Park. I'm going to write music for them. 12. It's really a 12 houses thing, but the music's going to be not too difficult, and it's not going to be about my compositions as much as it's going to be about the people. This is going to be about the power of music in a large group. If you get 112 people, we're trying to get that many people all playing at the same time, all all on the same vibe, for things like peace. You know, you remember John Coltrane wrote "Peace on Earth." You know, uh, we're stronger together. We're stronger when we're together. So how strong are we when there's going to be 100 of us? That's what we're trying to do. I used to play in Astoria Park thousands and thousands of hours down there by the river. I lived nearby for a number of years, and I was just down there every day. I was part of the Astoria scene for a while, and we're doing the conduction right where I used to play. Now on the 22nd, the 12 houses are playing music from the CD at Shoal Street Studio, which is where we recorded it. We're going to perform music from the CD and some new music there. And in the 12 houses, we've got something like 4 different generations. We have an Ellingtonian in the band, Master Art Barron on trombone. It's I digress. But I'll move on to the next one. The Vision Festival is happening during that time. And on the 23rd, I'll be playing with Martin Roberts. I'm not sure of the time yet, but this is the final night of the Vision Festival. And the last event of the festival this year is Marshall Allen and the Sun Ra Orchestra from Philly, celebrating Marshall Allen's 100th birthday. So Martin is playing that night before that, and we're all going to be celebrating the great Marshall Allen, and 100 years old and still on the front line, playing hard and just blowing everybody else off the stage. I'm always talking to trumpet players about Marshall, because Marshall has this thing that he plays. It's like an electronic thing with a dial on the bottom, and you spin the dial. He has sounds. It's not a trumpet sound. It's trumpet like. But what he does is stuff that is almost, if not totally, impossible on trumpet. And I think trumpet players are just like, somebody like Marshall is just, he's operating on another wavelength, another vibration, and that's going to be something else. And of course, Martin is a very special person and musician too, and it's going to be quite an event. And I think that that's 3:30 on the dot. So I really appreciate any folks spending time with me. I love to talk about music. I'm also a painter. There's some of my stuff behind me. I've done some writing, and I'll I just sum up like real quick. I believe that the great masters of this music have given us things to pass on, to hold on to, and to keep this thing going. When you spend time with somebody like Ornette Coleman, he's giving you a piece of himself to take with you, to give to somebody else, and it's deeper than just the idea of music itself. It's about humanity. Ornette was about humanity, but that's what jazz is about. Jazz is about humanity. It's the music of us just trying to be who we are. It's the music of the struggle to be human, and all the things that happened to us during that struggle. It's about heartbreak. It's about joy. It's about triumph. It's about defeat. It's about going through things. It's about going through it. It's about keeping your head down and just keep going. And there's so much complex emotion and so many levels of emotion and human expression in jazz. It's got to be the widest spectrum of emotional human colors that exist in any music. And I stand by that. I stand by that. If we got to do categories and you got to lock it down, then jazz would be, and blues, of course, is the human music, you know. And hey, I'm getting on my soapbox right now, so it's always sunny in Philadelphia, kind of. But anyway, I really appreciate it. Hey, Gail Boyd, I really appreciate your time. And like I always say, to be continued, TBC. Thank you very much. Peace.